you. The love for you. Gonna work and pray and love every day. Gonna work and pray and love every day. Lord God Almighty. Oh, Lord God Almighty. Preach the word for you. Preach the word for you. Lord God Almighty. Oh, Lord God Almighty. Preach the word for you. Preach the word for you. Gonna work and pray and preach every day. Gonna work and pray and preach every day. Oh, God Almighty. Oh, Lord God Almighty. Oh, God Almighty. Lord God Almighty. Lord God Almighty. Oh, Lord God Almighty. Serve for you. No, serve for you. Lord God Almighty. Oh, Lord God Almighty. Serve for you. No, serve for you. Gonna work and pray and serve every day. Gonna work and pray and serve every day. Lord God Almighty. Oh, Lord God Almighty. Live my life for you. Live my life for you. Lord God Almighty. Oh, Lord God Almighty. Live my life for you. Live my life for you. Gonna work and pray and live every day. Gonna work and pray and live every day. Lord God Almighty. Oh, Lord God Almighty. 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 Amen. Have a seat. Come on, Elijah.
Let's go, Omar. Preach it, bruh. Come on, Omar.
Good morning, church. It's great to be back.
Yeah.
My name is Omar, and today I have the honor and privilege to speak today for church.
Come on.
So I've been
Preach.
for about 3 weeks. And so the title of today's lesson is The Mission Field.
Come on, bro.
And so before I went to Chennai, India, I actually made a stop with a few disciples to Thailand, Bangkok.
Oh, okay.
And so during this time in Thailand, it's called Thai New Year. So people describe it as the biggest water fight in the world.
Wow.
And so literally everywhere you go, somebody has a water gun.
Oh my God.
Everywhere. And they have these taxis called tuk-tuks, and they're like 3-wheelers, and it's open. And people will just wet you if you're on that thing.
Wow.
Everywhere you go, like it will get so annoying that you will get dry, and then I don't know where you get wet.
Wow.
People would like, I know for Ruth, somebody like wet her and they like slap play on her.
Oh,
It was just, like, so
no.
random. So they slap you play and they wet you. And so another cool thing about Thailand, they have a lot of temples everywhere. And so we got to visit a lot of temples. Some of them were out in the mountains and stuff, or like up in the hill, not the mountains. And so, after exploring the city, we went out and we got to feed elephants. It's a place that they rescue animals, they rescue elephants, and so you get to bathe them and you get to feed them. And so for me, I was like, no way, I am not getting to this thing. And so later on, after some of the disciples, some of the sisters started feeding the elephant, the instructor was like, oh yeah, by the way, this elephant killed at least 3 people.
What?
I was like, that's exactly why I didn't get here. And so to end it, we went to one of the tallest buildings, which was the Hilton Hotel. And so you go to the roof, and it's a restaurant, and you can literally see all of Bangkok from that view. And then it starts to turn dark at night, and so you can see just the buildings lighting up. You can see the temples and then the boats, and they're like just all lighting up, and the view was amazing. So after Thailand, we went to Dubai. And so we spent one day there, and so we went to a few malls. This is one mall, it has like this huge glass, and there's like all kinds of fish in there, like really cool fish, like all types of species. Then we went to a different mall, and they have an indoor skiing.
What?
That's like, yeah, I don't even know. It was like a big, huge room, and people were like skiing there. Then we drove out into the desert, and then we did different activities. One of them was dune driving. So pretty much you would get inside a car, they'll deflate the tires, and then the driver is just driving all crazy throughout the sand. And so after a while, we started to feel kind of sick. We was like, let us out, and we got it, let us out. then we went sandboarding. Then after sandboarding, we had the option to ride camels.
Oh.
And then after that, we saw some performances, and then they served us like real Middle Eastern food.
Come on,
so
bro.
that was amazing. After Dubai, we went to Chennai. And so in Chennai, India, the traffic is crazy. Like there's motorcycles everywhere. The streets are very dusty. The infrastructure of the city is like pretty run down. People just litter everywhere. The water for us is undrinkable, so we gotta drink only bottled water.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the brothers, he took me like all around on his motorcycle, all around Chennai, India. And so we ran to a beach, it's called Marina Beach, and we ran to a section of it that they have slums. So Chennai, India is pretty poor, but this area was like beyond poor. Like the beach, it was like super dirty. You saw rats just like walking around. You see these little communities where, you know, it's just dirty. People are just laying around doing nothing. Kids are playing in the street. And it looks like if you used to just go in there to visit, like you would never come out alive. That's how dangerous it was like. And, you know, temples are everywhere. Like, you know, Hinduism is like the main religion. So everywhere you go, you see people worship in these temples. And so one of the best experiences that I had was, I know lately, you know, some brothers and sisters has been encouraging me to start a brother's household.
Come on, bro.
And so I actually got to live in a brother's household for 5 days.
Wow.
And it was the most humbling experience ever.
Come on, bro.
And so my first day there, you know, like at night, you know, my bed was a table. And all the brothers just slept on the floor.
Wow.
And so when I woke up, my hip was bruised because I slept on it. And then some of the people, they actually have a bed, but it's too hot to sleep in it. And so the reason I don't sleep in that bed is one, because it's too hot, and then they call it the helicopter room. Because when they turn on the fan, the whole roof just kind of just goes crazy. It's like, so the toilet is basically a room, and there's like a hole in the ground. You know, there's no fridge. You know, and for me, I was like literally the only person out of all the brothers who was getting attacked by mosquitoes. Like the only person. So I was waking up with like all these bugs on me. It was just pretty crazy. And so another few highlights from Chennai is, you know, in the Bible we have 12 apostles. And so one of them is Thomas. And so, you know, in Chennai, India, people are pretty religious, and you find a lot of Catholics and Christians there because of Thomas. And this is where he died. This is where he was killed. And so we got to see his bureau and, you know, all the different sections that he went, you know, before he got murdered. And last but not least, in Chennai, just to end off this, you know, the conference was amazing. At the end of the conference, a brother ends up getting engaged with a sister. And so it's very different from here.
Really?
Like, literally, the brother he told me that he had a few interactions with her. You know, they had a retreat, they got to know each other, they got to, you know, work together as teammates, and then he liked her. And so they asked her, hey, do you like this brother? And she was like, yeah, I like him. And so he got engaged.
Whoa!
And so after they get engaged, things like, oh, now you're engaged, they can spend time together, they talk on the phone. Even then, we still don't communicate with her. So you get married, and then you get to know her. So India is very different, and the divorce rates are a lot lower than here in America. And so after Chennai, then I went to New Delhi, which is up in the north.
Okay.
And so it's very different. In Chennai, a lot of people that come into the city are from the village, the surrounding villages. And so people are very traditional, and I would say less educated. So here in New Delhi, it's more modern. You know, people wear name brand clothes, women wear dresses. The streets are cleaner, traffic is under control. The only thing about New Delhi is that beef, it's because a cow is sacred, you can't eat beef. So if you go to Burger King, they only sell chicken, no beef. And so, you know, aside from that, in New Delhi, Hinduism, they're pretty radical, you know, and their goal is to eliminate all religions from India. And so the Hindus there kind of tie themselves up with the government so that they can have more power. And so for the disciples, they have to be shrewd in their evangelism when they want to go out and reach out to people. And so the reason this came about to be was that back then, India was ruled by the British. And so after India declared independence, right, the Muslims wanted their own territory. And so that's how Pakistan came to be. And then to the other side of Pakistan, you have East Pakistan. But then eventually, and a lot of Muslims went to East Pakistan, and then they wanted to do their own thing, and so East Pakistan became Bangladesh. And so, that's kind of like a little bit of the history there. And so even one billboard I saw said one government and one religion. So these guys are pretty serious. And so just to give you a little bit of good news, in New Delhi, so we had a remnant group of 18 disciples. 37 from Chennai moved up to the north. So that makes 55 disciples. And in the first Sunday service, they had 150 visitors.
Come on.
Wow.
And one disciple had 40 visitors.
Wow. That's incredible.
So jump into the lesson. Let's turn over to Exodus chapter
Come on, Omar.
19. Verse 1.
Wow.
Exodus chapter 19, verse 1. It says, in the 3rd month after the Israelites left Egypt, on the very day they came to the desert of Sinai. After they set out from Rephidim, they entered the desert of Sinai, and Israel camped there in the desert in front of the mountain. Then Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain and said, this is what you are to say to the house of Jacob, and what you are to tell the people of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all the nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites. So Moses went back and summoned the elders of the people and set before them all the words the Lord had commanded him to speak. The people all responded together, we will do everything the Lord has said. So Moses brought their answer back to the Lord. The Lord said to Moses, I am going to come to you in a dense of cloud, so that the people will hear me speaking with you, will always put their trust in you. Point number 1 is obey me fully and be fully invested.
Come on, bro.
So right here, he tells them, you have seen the miracles that I have done in Egypt. He tells them that if you obey me, you are my treasured possession. He also goes on to say, when you read in verse 8, it says that the people responded by saying, we will do everything that the Lord has said. So you see the people's obedience and their trust in God. Verse 9, it says that I will come to you so people can see me and put their trust in you. And so God wanted Moses to have all authority to lead the Israelite communities. And so just to give you a little bit of description on how this really looked like when God came to the people, let's read in Exodus chapter 20, verse 18.
Come on.
When the people saw the thunder and lightning and heard a trumpet and saw the mountain in smoke, they trembled with fear. They stayed at a distance and said to Moses, speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But do not have God come to us, or we will die. Moses said to the people, do not be afraid. God has come to test you, so that the fear of God will be with you to keep you from sinning. And so a lot of times for us, if we're falling into sin intentionally, it just means that we don't fear God.
Yeah.
And so I could just imagine these Israelites just seeing God's power and the thunder and the lightning and really understanding how great God really is. And so I want to talk a little bit about the men and women who moved from Chennai to New Delhi.
Come on, bro.
These guys were fully invested. So you had 37 that moved from the south all the way to the north. And so almost none of them have never been to New Delhi, so they don't even know what to expect. The only thing that they know is that Christianity is not really allowed. You know, it's dangerous to share your faith. You know, they never experienced winter. The main language in Chennai is Tamil. And so the main language in New Delhi is Hindi. And so these people don't even know how to speak Hindi.
Wow.
So they gotta learn a new language. A lot of them left their families and with no money and went on a mission team.
Wow.
There was this one brother, his name is Sherwin. He literally had to escape in the middle of the night just so that he can be on a mission team.
Wow.
And so they took a bumpy train, 28 hours from Chennai to New Delhi with no AC. And so for these brothers, they had to be fully invested to be called as missionaries.
Wow.
And so what helped these disciples to be invested? Well, just like the Israelites saw the miracles when they came out of Egypt, these disciples in Shania saw the miracles done in their lives.
Yeah.
How they changed after baptism. You know, how they turned away and repented from lust, pride, immorality, and all of these things that captivated them at one time in their lives. They seen the miracles in Shania in 1 month having 24 baptisms.
Come on.
Wow.
They saw a small remnant group grow from a small group to over 100 disciples, send out a mission team to Bangalore, break up into regions, and then finally send out a mission team to New Delhi. And so they understood that because of their full obedience, God was on their side, and they are God's treasured possession.
Come on, bro.
Yeah, bro.
And lastly, the people saw God working through Moses. And so the disciples in Shania have seen God work powerfully in the life of Roger and Debs, who leads their church. And so they put their trust in him. And so for God, he expects full obedience and full investment. And only then can we do greater things, even greater things here in the Bronx.
Come on, bro.
There's a famous player, cricket player. His name is Karun Nair. And so it is said that he hits cricket balls 30 to 40 hours a week just to practice, to be among the best.
Wow.
And so when I look at his life and his example, this is a man who's fully invested in what he does. For me personally, you know, I studied the Bible. I was called to seek God with all my heart. And I was like, sure, you know, that's easy. I don't mind doing that. Then I was called to make the Bible my standard in my life. And I was like, okay, you know, I didn't really know what that meant, but I'm down for it. And then the next study, they called me to give up everything. All of my passions, all of my dreams, all of my desires. And then I fully understood that if I didn't give up everything, if I was not fully invested, then I couldn't be a disciple, I couldn't be a Christian, and I couldn't be saved. And so my challenge for this point is to decide to obey God fully and be fully invested.
Come on, bro.
Let's turn over to Exodus chapter 20, verse 1.
Mama.
All throughout the Old Testament, I would say the number one topic is idols. Just the worship of idols. And so you see over and over again how people start to follow God, then they drift, and then they start to follow idols, and then God pours his wrath upon them. And so here, Exodus 20 verse 1 says, "And God spoke all these words, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me." Point number 2, you shall have no other gods before me.
Come on.
Verse 4, you shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me, but showing love to thousands who love me and keep my commandments. So right here, this is the beginning of the 10 Commandments. And for not worshiping idols to be in the 10 Commandments just shows you how important and how seriously God takes this.
Come on.
And so, just to give you another perspective of how God feels about idols and what he thinks about them, let's quickly turn over to Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 16.
Come on, preacher, bro.
Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 16. It says, "They made him jealous with their foreign gods and angered him with their detestable idols. They sacrificed to demons, which are not God, gods they had not known, gods that recently appeared, gods your fathers did not fear. You deserted the rock who fathered you. You forgot the God who gave you birth. The Lord saw this and rejected them because he was angered by his sons and daughters. I will hide my face from them," he said, "and see what their end will be. They are a perverse generation, children who are unfaithful. They made me jealous by what is no God, and anger me with their worthless idols. I will make them envious by those who are not a people. I will make them angry by a nation that has no understanding." And so, one thing that right here in the scripture says that it angers God. Another thing, it says that when you worship false idols, really you're worshiping demons.
Wow.
And so in India, when I flew into New Delhi, me and a few disciples drove up to go see the Taj Mahal. And so it's just this huge, awesome looking building. It's just made out of marble. And so the cab driver was a Sikh. And so Sikhism is a religion that's found in India. And so it originated in Punjab, India, which is northwest. And out of the 27 million people in the state, 20 million of them are Sikh. And so basically in the past, this one man saw Islam. Then he saw Hinduism, and he didn't quite like any of them, so he just started Sikhism.
Okay.
And so this is how Sikhism
Makes sense.
became to be. And so, there's something called the 5Ks. So the guy started like pointing out all of these things in himself and kind of like explaining what they were. And so you have, part of 5Ks, you have the Kesh. So they never cut their beard as a sign of holiness. So this guy had it wrapped around like in his head somewhere, and then he had a turban, and then he just like pulled it out, and it was like a super huge long beard.
Come on, Drew.
And number two is the kanha, which is a wooden comb, and it's placed in the head as a sign of cleanliness. The third one is the bracelet made out of steel that reminds them that they are connected to God. The fourth one is kashara, is a short underwear that symbolizes modesty. And last but not least, you have kapan, and it's a sword that they carry for protection.
Wow.
So all of these Sikhs, under their garments, they carry like this dagger.
Wow.
So it's really intense. And so I wanted to learn a little bit more about Sikhism.
Okay.
And so I went to the temple, and they had me take off my shoes, and they had me cover my head.
Okay.
And you saw people just worshiping stuff. You saw people doing all types of rituals. And aside from that, I went to a lot of Hindu temples. And then even in Thailand, 95% of people are Buddhists. And so, like I mentioned earlier, we got to see a lot of temples. We saw people worshiping like statues. We saw people doing things that I didn't really know what they were doing. They was lighting up things. They were, just doing a lot of rituals. And so, human beings, we're created to worship something.
Yeah. Come on.
You would rarely find somebody who's not worshiping anything.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
And so when we went to a leprosy colony in Chennai, basically in the Bible you hear about leprosy. And so a lot of people think that that's something in the past, thousands of years ago, but leprosy still actually exists in India.
Right.
You won't see it in America, but it exists in India. And so we went to this one place. It was for Mercy Day. And so a lot of, a bunch of disciples broke up, and then me and a few disciples had this one block. It was like a small house, and it was just like this long hallway, and each side there were rooms. And so they have no light, no AC, no nothing. It's just a random building there. And so everybody occupies a room. And so when we went inside the rooms, you would see people missing toes, missing fingers. Some of their legs are just like, just messed up. And one thing that I noticed was that all of them believed in the God. And so whenever you would go inside the rooms, you would see either, pictures of their Hindu gods, or sometimes you would see a picture of Jesus and Hindu gods and a bunch of other stuff. And even one guy was like, yeah, I believe in a God, but I don't know which God, so I just acknowledge all of them.
Wow.
And so here in America, it's very hard to see, even though I've seen it, people worshiping a statue or doing some of those things that I mentioned in India. But in America, we worship other things that aren't so physical.
Yeah.
And some are physical. And so let's turn over to Ezekiel 14 and
Come
give
on,
us an
Omar.
understanding what are the type of things that they worship.
Come on, Omar.
Be great, bro.
Ezekiel chapter 14, verse 1. It says, some of the elders of Israel came to me and sat in front of me. Then the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, these men have set up idols in their hearts and put wicked stumbling blocks before their faces. Should I let them inquire of me at all? Therefore speak to them and tell them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. When any Israelite set up idols in their heart and put a wicked stumbling block before his face, and then goes to a prophet, I, the Lord, will answer him myself in keeping with his great idolatry. I will do this to recapture the hearts of the people of Israel, who have all deserted me for their idols. Therefore say to the house of Israel, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Repent, turn from your idols, and renounce all your detestable practices. When any Israelite or any alien living in Israel separates himself from me and sets up idols in his heart, and puts a wicked stumbling block before his face, and then goes to the prophet to inquire of me, I, the Lord, will answer him myself. I will set my face against that man, and make him an example and a byword. I will cut him off from my people. Then you will know that I am the Lord.
Come on, bro.
And so, here in America, I would say we worship material things.
Right.
But even in India, despite people being poor, they still worship, material things. I remember going to a mall, and women are crazy about almost like 99% of the women out there wear saris and kurtas, and that's basically their traditional outfit out in India. And so, even though they're poor, somehow they still manage to find money to pay for these things because they want to impress others. Here in America, career advancement, our reputation, titles, and precision, the money that it pays are things that we can worship. Our education, accumulating degrees, and even trying to enter a school with a great reputation and a great name can be our ultimate idol. For others who aspire to be in a ministry can be an idol. Your interest can be an idol.
Come on.
Your wife and husband can be an idol. And so how can you tell if what is most valuable and important to you? So here are a few questions.
Come on.
Come on, Omar.
And answering these questions, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're your idols, but it could be a sign. How do you spend your time? How do you spend your money? What do you talk about the most? What do you think about the most? What do you read about the most? And if we've given our hearts to other things aside from God, then really we're giving our hearts to demons.
Come on, bro.
I want to read a scripture in Psalms 115. You don't have to turn there. Psalm 115, verse 4.
Come on, Omar.
4 through 8, it says, but their idols are silver and gold, made by the hands of men. They have mouths but cannot speak, eyes but they cannot see. They have ears but cannot hear, noses but they cannot smell. They have hands but cannot feel, feet but they cannot walk. Nor can they utter a sound with their throats. Those who make them will be like them, and so will all who trust in them. And so right here, we worship idols, but we become worthless. And so the challenge for this point is to identify and smash the idols in your life.
Come
Come on, bro.
Awesome. So moving on to our last point, let's turn over to Exodus chapter 18, verse 13.
Come on, bro.
So the chapter before 18, the Israelites escaped Egypt. Now they're traveling from place to place. Finally, they settle at Rephidim, and the people start to argue with Moses because they're thirsty and there's no water to drink. And so the people start to quarrel, and they're getting ready to stone Moses, and then Moses cries out to God. God tells him to strike a rock with his staff, and then water comes out. But then there's another problem. The Amalekites come, they attack the Israelites. And so Moses sends out Joshua to fight the Amalekites. Moses goes up to the hill, and every time he raises his arms, the Israelites are winning. And every time his arms grow tired, then they're losing. And so Aaron and Hur holds up his arms. Then later, his father-in-law Jethro hears about all the great news, and then Moses tells him how he's leading his people. And so his father-in-law advises him how to lead his people in a way that's smarter and more strategic. And so point number 3 is strategic building.
Come on, bro.
Exodus chapter 18, verse 13. And so it says, the next day, Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. When his father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, what is this you're doing and for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge while all these people stand around you from morning till evening? Moses answered him, because the people come to me to seek God's will. Whenever they have a dispute, it is brought to me, and I decide between the parties and inform them of God's decrees and laws. Moses' father-in-law replied, what you are doing is not good. You and these people will come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. Listen now to me, and I will give you some advice. And may God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God, and bring their disputes to him. Teach them the decrees and laws, and show them the way to live, and the duties they are to perform. But select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but have them bring every difficult case to you. The simple cases they can decide themselves. They will make your load lighter, because they will share it with you. If you do this, and God so commands, you will be able to stand strain, and all these people will go home satisfied. Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. He chose capable men from all Israel and made them leaders of the people. Officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. They serve as judges for the people at all times. The difficult cases they brought to Moses, but the simple ones they decided themselves. Then Moses sent his father-in-law on his way, and he returned to his own country. So right here, it shows us that Moses was taking on everybody's problems, all of the burdens, and he was giving them advice on it. And so he was wearing himself out. And so he had to grab trustworthy men to be officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. And all the difficult cases he was to take for himself. So this could lighten up his load. And so Moses needed to change his strategy to lead the Israelite community. And so I want to talk a little bit about the strategies that I saw that the disciples in the Shania Church put into practice.
Come on, bro.
Come on.
And so, at the Brothers Flat that I was staying on, so, the first apartment on the bottom, you have the landowner. So the second apartment, you have 6 brothers. Then the third apartment, you have 7 brothers. And that's the one that I stood in. And so me and one brother decided to walk to the mall. And so walking to the mall, we ran into a sister, her name is Hannah. Then when we got to the mall, we ran into 4 disciples, 4 sisters who were sharing their faith. Then we ran into the campus minister. Then we ran into a brother who had fell away. And coming back, I found out that there were 4 more households, all in that area, including the church leaders, Roger and John, lived there. And so at first I thought it was a coincidence, like, hey, we're just running into disciples. But no, they actually lived very close to each other. And so when they reach out to people and they baptize them, they all become part of this close-knit community. And so the advantages of that is that, for example, one brother was struggling. So since his church leader was very close to his home, every morning they would go and pray together. For the fall-away disciples, always run into disciples. So he can't run away. And so he has an opportunity to come back into the kingdom. And so, on campus, they make it a focus to reach out to only master's students and PhDs so that they can build a strong foundation in the church. And so part of the reason why they moved the Pillar Church from Chennai to New Delhi was that there's more influential people in New Delhi. Right. There's more resources, and the national language is Hindi. So when you convert people from Hindi, you can literally send them all over India into different states. And so Paul had a strategy. Yeah. He was a man who was strategic in his building. He built churches in some of the most influential cities like Rome, Galatia, Ephesus, Philippi, and Corinth. And even in Acts 19, it says that he held daily discussions in the lecture hall of Tyrannus for 2 years. And so this wasn't by coincidence, but it was strategic. And so imagine if you convert just a few people in your building.
Come on, bro.
Together, how much of a greater impact will you have in just your building alone? What about making a few disciples just here in this neighborhood on Grand Concourse. How much easier would it be for people to just travel here? Literally, don't even have to take a train or a bus. And so you have no excuse to get here to church late. And so these people start to reach out to other people in this community, and then that's when we start seeing communities being truly evangelized. Imagine reaching out to a few police officers in your local precinct and them becoming disciples. I can literally see them converting their lieutenants, their commissioners, their deputy inspectors. And so this is strategic building. And so I believe as a church we have to be more strategic and innovative in how we build God's kingdom. And so the challenge for this point is come up with a list of strategic ideas and discuss it with your ministry leader.
Come on, bro.
And so in closing, I want to talk a little bit about special missions.
Come on.
And so special missions, honestly, is special. And you know, when every time I think about special missions, I think about just how hard and sacrificial the disciples are in India. And so, you know, for me, I thought, man, like here in the States, we're the hard workings. We're the ones that give. But a lot of these disciples are willing to move anywhere in India, give up everything, and indeed some of them have, moving from Chennai to Delhi. And so, you know, I remember when giving special missions, just the persecution stories. You know, there was this one sister who got heavily persecuted from her mom because she turned from Islam to Christianity. You know, the churches in India, honestly, I've been like all over the world. I've seen, you know, different churches in different countries in our movement. And I will say that the churches in India are the most grateful churches that I have seen so far. So I went in 2016, and I came to that realization. And you know, recently I just went again in 2018, and they still by far are the most loving church that I have ran into. And so, you know, like I can see just the disciples like sleeping on the floor in a hot, boiling room with a toilet that's like a hole in the ground. And you know, I think about their living conditions and their hearts for God. And these people don't complain, and they're happy. You know, and a lot of times we come here and we're like complaining about the littlest things. You know, I had culture shock coming back. I like literally was like, oh my gosh, like I'm walking on clean pavement. Like I was thought Europe was dirty. But coming back, I'm like, man, Europe is actually pretty clean. And so, you know, it's like we have trees, we have like diversity, we have people wearing top name brand clothes. And, you know, it's just a whole different world going out to India, seeing the slums, seeing the living conditions, seeing just all of the filth and garbage that people just pour on the floor and just keep walking. And so the churches in India are bearing much fruit. And so their goal is to evangelize 1.3 billion souls. Wow. And we have the honor and privilege to help them to accomplish this goal. And so, you know, today if you still have money to owe for special missions, you know, special missions goes to plant churches all over the world because we have a vision to evangelize the entire world. Right. Not just evangelize our communities, but our countries and really those countries that we really don't know nothing about, people we have never seen. And so I just pray that this morning we can just give out of our hearts and that we can just continue to pray for the churches in India. So at this time, I'm going to pray and then we'll just pass the plates. Dear God, thank you for just the opportunity to be able to live in the United States of America, God, a place so rich, a place full of resources, a place where we can just be comfortable. God, and I pray that we can just not take those things for granted, God, that we can be grateful for them, that we can spread the love, God, that we can help out those in need. God, I pray that here in the Bronx we can continue to multiply. God, I pray that the churches in India, God, that they can continue to expand and multiply and just keep their hearts soft. Keep our hearts soft, God. Being here, we are susceptible to greed. We're susceptible to being selfish, God. And I just pray that we can never grow greedy or selfish and that we can continue to just give and serve in all the different ways that we are blessed. And we just love your time, God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Lord, for loving me, and thank you, Lord, for blessing me. Thank you, Lord, for making me whole and saving my soul. Thank you, Lord, for loving me. Thank you, Lord, for saving my soul. Thank you, Lord, for loving me. Thank you, Lord, for saving my soul. Let us all with one accord sing praises to Christ the Lord. Let us all unite in song and praise Him all day long. Thank you, Lord, for loving me. Thank you, Lord, for saving my soul. Thank you, Lord, for loving me. Thank you, Lord, for saving my soul. Please reveal your will for me so I can serve you for eternity. Use my life in every way, take hold of it today. Thank you, Lord, for loving me. Thank you, Lord, for saving my soul. Thank you, Lord, for loving me. Thank you, Lord, for saving my soul.
We're going to have one final song. Why don't we all stand up? Lead me to the rock. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, higher than I, higher than I. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. You are my tower against the foe. Hear my cry, O God. Answer my prayers. Answer my prayers. Answer my prayers. Hear my cry, O God. Answer my prayer. You are my tower against the foe. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, higher than I, higher than I. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. You are my tower against the foe. I'll fulfill my vows day after day, day after day, day after day. I fulfill my vows day after day. You are my tower against the foe. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, higher than I, higher than I. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. You are my tower against the foe. I'll take refuge in the shelter of your wings, shelter of your wings, shelter of your wings. I'll take refuge in the shelter of your wings. You are my tower against the foe. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, higher than I, higher than I. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. You are my tower against the foe. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, higher than I, higher than I. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. You are my tower against the foe. Tower against the foe. You are my tower against the foe.
Hi guys, thank you guys so much for coming. There's a little change of plans since we finished way too early. We got 20 minutes before 12, so we're actually going to have leaders here. 12 to 1. So we got 20 minutes, you can get a quick bite, but you can stick around, everybody's invited. But in 20 minutes, we'll start our leaders meeting. Amen?
Amen.
Hey guys, pick up your kids.